Hi everyone, Quiveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. In today's video, we are looking ahead to the month of June. We're not looking very far into the month, just to the 7th, really the beginning of the month. Most of the interesting events in June are happening later in the month. Of course, we've got the summer solstice, there's Mercury's greatest elongation. There are some interesting things coming up. But we're taking a look here early in the month thanks to a suggestion. So if you know of any events that are coming up that you would like to see discussed or displayed on this channel, just drop a comment below or on my website. I'm always happy to take a look at interesting things in the sky. So we have been told, I have been informed, to look at Venus for the evening of the 7th. And we can see Venus and Jupiter quite close together here. We can also just about see Mercury. Mercury's just about visible here. Mercury's coming up to its greatest elongation, its greatest eastern elongation later in June. So it's starting to be visible, but we will take a further look at Mercury. We can see Venus and Jupiter here quite close together, but also quite close to disappearing behind this tree. No matter where we are, we're going to be looking at Jupiter and Venus at sunset. So to give ourselves the best chance of seeing what it is we have been told to look at, we're going to use a completely flat horizon. So if you are looking out over the ocean towards the west, for example, that will give you a better view of Jupiter and Venus coming together in this quite close conjunction. This is a pretty close conjunction between Venus and Jupiter, the two brightest things that we only see at nighttime. Of course, the sun and the moon are brighter, but here we go. It would take a very large field of view. This is 1 degree of arc, this field of view, which is pretty wide. You would need a pretty good telescope to have a field of view this wide at this level of magnification, enough to see a couple of Jupiter's moons along with Venus. Now, I was told to simulate the whole evening, but of course Venus and Jupiter are only above the horizon for a pretty short period of time here in Ireland. So to look at them for a little bit longer, we're going to get rid of the ground and we're going to get rid of the atmosphere. So this means when Venus and Jupiter set, we will still be able to see them. We're going to focus on Venus just to keep things visible for us, just to keep us looking in the right direction. So we can see here as we move forward, as we move through the dates, the planets do seem to get closer together, but they're not, I don't believe, on exactly the same part of the ecliptic. They're not. And of course, Venus orbiting the sun reaches a certain distance from the sun in our sky and then starts moving back in the opposite direction. So that is going to complicate how we see Venus and Jupiter in our sky. We'll get back to the 7th and we will move to a different location. Not only was I informed to look at Venus and Jupiter for this particular date, I was also told to look at them from a particular location. So let's get back to the sunset. Venus and Jupiter reasonably close together. We will bring back our perfectly flat horizon and our atmosphere. Before we go to a different location to take a look at them, we've got Mercury, Venus, and Jupiter here. We've also got the two bright stars in Gemini, Pollux and Castor. If we move through the dates here, we can see that Venus is continuing to move away from the sun, whereas Jupiter is moving towards the sun in our sky. We don't normally call this motion retrograde motion in the evening when Venus is moving against the direction that we would expect everything to move. Usually that's not called retrograde motion as much as the motion in the morning is called retrograde motion. But technically it is apparent retrograde motion. It looks like Venus is moving in the wrong direction and Mercury there as well. We're going to head to the recommended location for observing this conjunction between Venus and Jupiter, which I assume is the main event. I assume that's what we're really looking for here. So we need to go to 19 degrees, 57 minutes and 20 seconds of arc for the Longitude, I was told 27 degrees, but no mention of minutes or seconds, so roughly there should be good enough. We're going to stay at an elevation of 10 meters, of course. Very high elevations will give you a slightly different view, but 10 meters elevation is fine. The elevation changes won't make too much of a difference. So we can see here that puts us in West Africa, I guess almost Northwest Africa here, the west of the Sahara. And that gives us a good view of Jupiter and Venus. We are significantly closer to the equator, so we can already see them being up much higher during the day and staying visible for quite a while as they set. It hasn't become an occultation or anything like that. It is still a conjunction, but this location does allow us to observe them for longer. They stay visible for longer in our sky. And we have changed where we are looking from, which may influence our view of how close together they get. As I said, I was told to go through the whole evening, so I will push through at least until the 8th just to see, okay, they're continuing to get closer. Might zoom in a little bit. Of course, everything does feel like it's going topsy-turvy here. Things keep turning around, but that's because we're following these two planets across our sky, down underneath ourselves, and then back up into the sky. So we can see Venus here continuing to overtake Jupiter as we move through to the 11th. So it does look like the 7th is probably going to be the best day. We'll zoom back out, bring back the atmosphere and the ground. We'll take a look at how those two planets pass by each other over the course of a few days. And we'll also come back a little bit closer to the beginning of the month, because of course this is coming up in early June. So we can see here, moving back towards the beginning of June and back closer to today, Venus and Jupiter and Mercury are all moving away from each other. Mercury is very difficult to see while we're still in May. As we come forward into June, they come closer together. There we are on the 7th, very close together. I think closer together maybe on the 8th and 9th, and then they continue to pass by each other. If we keep moving into the future, Jupiter would just about be catching up with Mercury, but we can see that Mercury reaches its greatest elongation and then turns around. So here we go, moving into June, Mercury comes up, reaches its greatest elongation pretty close to Jupiter, and then it starts moving back around the sun in the same direction as Jupiter. So this early evening view of the sunset, there are 3 planets and they're going to be in a great position, certainly there on the 7th. We'll take a slightly closer look at Venus just in case its relationship to Jupiter in the sky isn't what we're supposed to be looking at, but it does seem like Venus is just Venus. It is not quite on our side of the sun, and we can tell because it's not fully illuminated, but it's not quite a half either. So we can see here as we move through time, Venus doesn't change particularly much. It does change orientation, of course, because we're following it across the sky. It doesn't look like Venus is moving past any particularly bright or famous star either. So we'll hop back to our default viewing location back here in Ireland. But of course, if we can see this conjunction, I'll bring back the flat landscape as well. If we can see this conjunction happening from Ireland at 52 degrees north and from Africa at just 19 degrees north, that means most people around the world are going to have a good chance of viewing this conjunction. So here we are back to Ireland. We'll come back a few days. As we can see, Mercury is much, much lower to the horizon. Everything's lower to the horizon because of the angle of the ecliptic. But we can still see Venus and Jupiter coming close together. Although maybe they don't look quite as close from here as they do from closer to the equator. And as we keep moving forward, we can see Jupiter going in the direction of Mercury, but they don't seem to be visible as close together from here in Ireland as they would be from the equator, and again, that makes sense. We can also see, as we move a little bit later here, there's the moon joining in, so we will take a further look at that in the next video when we're going to look generally at what's coming up in June. We'll look more at the greatest elongation of Mercury and of course the solstice as well. So I hope you get a chance to see the close conjunction of Venus and Jupiter. It looks like it will be visible from most locations around the world, and they will be pretty pretty close together over a couple of days, but it looks like the 7th, 8th, 9th, those will be the best days to observe them. I hope that you get to see it in real life. If you don't, I hope you enjoyed seeing it simulated here. If you enjoyed this video, then please do like it, and if you like this kind of content, then please subscribe to this YouTube channel. You can also read this information written down on my website, quivinscontent.ie. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you back here next time.